So I had this idea the other day for a USB device I wanted to make, and the idea behind this is the Arduino Leonardo has a hardware USB stack or capability or whatever on it that you don't have with the older Arduino. You'd have to use like a software USB setup like via USB. Also requires some additional hardware to make sure that you're not using like 5-volt logic on the D plus, D minus USB lines. So the Leonardo is powered by the Atmega 32U4, which has hardware USB capabilities and already does the level conversion for us for talking to USB, as well as a number of other things. So for about the cost of the Leonardo, I bought a bunch of junk on Amazon. And one of the things I bought is this Pro Micro Leonardo clone, I guess I'm going to call it. And it's got some header pins here that I'm not going to end up using. This was like, I don't know, $10 or something like that. And so we'll see if I get what I pay for out of it. Who knows if it'll actually work or not. I also bought a USB cable, and of course for my project here, because I've got this emergency stop button, I needed to get a red cable because red says important. And so anyways, to get back on track, what my project idea is here, the USB capability on here, I can have it act as a USB keyboard. It does like HID stuff. So what I want to do, some keyboards have a power button on them, and if you hit the power button, the system does, I guess, like a CPI shutdown or whatever. It's not quite the same thing as like the physical power button on the computer, but the OS might see that and shut down. I think it's kind of depends on what the OS wants to do. But the idea is that I'm going to make this be just one button, a one-button keyboard that hits the power button and shuts the computer down, and the OS should see that shutdown and shut down cleanly. I was thinking about making it do like a sequence of keys. In Linux, you have the magic SRQ system request, I think, and you could tell it to like sync the disks and then like reboot or kill all the processes or whatever. And I might end up playing with that too. Just depends on which one I like more. I kind of think something where I just hit the button and it kills all the processes might be kind of fun too. But so basically, I've got the equivalent of this guy and this guy for, I mean, obviously I don't have all of these header pins and things, but I only need 2. So for about the cost of this, I've got all of this junk, and we'll see if I can make this work. Alright, so using a hobby knife, I cut a little plus in the plug that comes in the box here, and I didn't really do a very good job of centering it, but I think that'd be good enough. I'm gonna shove the USB in through there and we'll see what it looks like. Yep, so that looks pretty terrible there, but it's gonna work for this since it's just a dumb idea anyways. Okay, so I put a little clumsy strain relief knot in there and pulled through enough cable to make sure that I can still position this wherever I need to make sure the lid still fits on and that part's taken care of. Alright, so I'm back to this project. It was taking longer than I thought it would. Originally I just planned on using the example Arduino code for using the Leonardo as a keyboard. Then I was planning on sending this keyboard value of 66, hex 66 for keyboard power, but it turns out that's not actually what that's for. Keyboard power has a footnote saying it's not an actual key. I don't know what it's for, but it didn't do what I wanted. So I started looking through the rest of the keyboard values, and I realized there's not another one for wake up or sleep, and so it's probably not what I was looking for. I've seen on a keyboard before where it has, like the sleep, wake up, power down buttons, And so I know it's possible, but it's not in here. And actually, also not in here was any of the media keys, like mute, next track, previous track, volume up, volume down, that kind of thing. So I thought, well, how does that work, right? Maybe I can find some like examples there. And so I came across this guy's code, and it's not. It's not, unfortunately, and you can see I'm not in the Arduino IDE. I have to actually modify the Arduino libraries to add support for doing these media keys. And it's not directly what I needed, but it's close enough that I can like make this work to do what I want. What I've had to change was the media keys are part of a collection called consumer control devices or consumer devices, whereas our keyboard and mouse and other things are the part of something called the generic desktop page. And so this value over here of 0, 1, that matches the desktop here. But I don't want it set up as a keyboard. I actually want to set it up as something called a system control, which is another thing defined in the list. So this page. No, I've gone back actually up a level. So 0, 1 generic desktop controls, that's what we want. And then I want underneath that, sorry, I don't have the actual PDF here. I took some screenshots of the pages that were relevant so that I don't have to go through all the pages, but this doesn't seem to be saving any time. Here we go. So hex 80 is system control. And actually hex 81, you can see underneath it is system power down. So we've got system control set. So we've got our collection of desktop, and we've got the usage of consumer control commented out and replaced with system control. Did the same thing, commented out the consumer devices, switch that back to, but switch that to desktop, like the rest of the code in the in this library. And then I've hijacked what mute does here. So instead of sending E2, I sent 81, which is the shutdown command. And so that's all I needed to do. Then I compiled a sketch in Arduino that just sends the mute for this new control thing. And yeah, so I think that's the example source code that the guy who wrote this stuff gave you to work from. So I'll provide a link to that. Actually, I'm going to try and clean this up and boil it down to just the parts I need. You can see I left in all of the other like play and pause, which aren't going to work because I've changed the collection and usage stuff here. But to give you a quick demonstration here, we'll switch angles. Okay, I've kind of repositioned things here, and I'm programming all of this on the Leonardo because I happen to have that board anyhow, and I trust that board's going to work correctly. Whereas this guy that I bought on Amazon for like $8 to $10, I read some of the reviews. I don't have a whole lot of confidence in it working correctly, so I thought, okay, one less variable. Let's program on this, and then try to move it to that. And I also earlier I called this. Kind of like a Leonardo clone, by which I meant that it uses that Atmega 32U. I didn't realize this at the time, but actually Arduino and Adafruit did a collaboration to make a kind of dip-style device like that, probably roughly that size, that uses the 32U. So there's an official Arduino that looks similar to this that's also compatible. So I'm sure that's what it's more a clone of. And I think that product's called like the Micro or something like that. This is calling itself the Pro Micro. So anyhow, that doesn't really matter. So I flashed this with the modified code, or the modified HID CPP file that gives me media control keys. And then I've hijacked mute to instead send the system power down, and not as a media control key, but rather as this system control thing. So I'm gonna simulate hitting the button here, and the thing turns off. So hooray, we can move that to this guy, and then put it in our button, and the job is done. Okay, if I'm going to hook this guy up, I need to know how it works. If I push it down, it stays locked. That makes sense, right? Because it's an emergency stop button. You don't really want it to be momentary. When I hit it, you know, in a like factory or whatever, it interrupts the power. So you can actually see down here, there's an A and a B labeled. The green is A and the orange is B. They kind of protrude until I, whoops, get that for the camera. And then they, whoop. So what happens when it's unlocked, so this is when the button isn't pressed. I've got my continuity test set up here. So if you hear the beep beep, it's got a good connection. So I'm on orange. Okay, so when it's not engaged, I've got a connection through here. And when it isn't engaged, this side, I get nothing, right? So if I push it, then orange is interrupted, and this side goes on. So this could sound like, you know, this side interrupts the power, and this side connects something that would say, like, sound an alarm or something like that, right? So if I want to have the state of my microcontroller pin change to, pull it to ground or you know, like 5 volt or whatever reference, this seems like a good side right here, because like that'll make the connection, whereas, you know, it's just in an input mode, normally waiting for a signal. Or I could say when I break the loop or something on this side. So either way, we could use this. I'm gonna go with the A side. So, all right, I've got this yellow wire soldered to pin 2, and the green one soldered to the nearby ground, and then we've hooked up to the A side of the switch, so that when I press the button, it'll connect those 2 pins. Then the Arduino sketch will see that and trigger the mute action, which we've hijacked to be the system power down. So I'm just going to do something to kind of insulate the Arduino from touching any metal in here, although I think it's mostly fine. And then I'm going to box it up, and we should be ready to test it out. Okay, so I've got it all screwed together, assembled, and cable coming out. Whatever. Looks so-so. Let's plug it into a computer. Okay, as long as I have to shut down a computer in order to test this, I thought I could really quickly mention where I got the multimedia key support stuff from that I modified to add the power things to. It's from this stephanjones.ca blog, and there's a matching GitHub repo at github.com/stephanjones/Arduino with a capital A. And so I've got that plugged in by USB onto the laptop, and then when I press the button, ta-da! Awesome, right? So it's still held down right now, and like every 500 milliseconds or something, I have it just pressing it again. So it's the power shutdown, it's not just power, so it doesn't toggle it back on. And actually, I found this out, though, I mean, I didn't really find it out, but I had this pressed down by accident when I plugged it in. I was about to do a video, and the computer shut off unexpectedly on me. So it's kind of funny if you want the computer to remain shut off, you know, just leave that pressed down. Whoever comes to the computer next, after it boots, hits the OS and hits the, like, detects the power button, it should just shut itself back down again. So kind of might be a fun thing to leave on a coworker's desk and see how long it takes for them to figure out. But I'm going to call this project successful, so $20 of stupid fun. There you go.